My dad calls it my dirt whiskey. So he's like, "You got yourself some dirt whiskey there?" I'm like, yeah.
Which one was that one?
2009 Cloudburst. So yeah, it's nice. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I might just keep the Cloudburst going for the Laphroaig because I think it's good.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
want something really
Earthy. That's earthy.
that stands up to the Laphroaig.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, I've tried doing. I paired a vaguely smoky tea with a vaguely smoky whiskey because I feel like those go well. I found that because there are smoky teas. There's really smoky teas, and I found that when you try to pair them with smoky whiskeys, it's almost like redundant. Like they're not complementing each other. They're kind of just running over each other, and so yeah, I feel like a good complement for smoky whiskeys is a nice earthy tea that gives a nice like foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We tried the pomelo.
Oh yeah, yeah, that one's awesome.
That was so fascinating. The flavors were really good.
Yeah, I love that one. I drink that one almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we are recording whenever y'all are ready.
Welcome back to West China Tea and Whiskey Provisioner. We're with Emma Crandall from Balcones, the famous blender. Actually, a really good friend, and I'm really happy to have you here at West China Tea with Sohan. We are going to go outside the box and try something that is one of Emma's favorites and one of Sohan's favorites. We're going to be looking at Laphroaig. Mm-hmm. And we got a couple different variations today. Which one did you bring?
I have the Elements L 1.0. This one is newer to me, so I'm still kind of discovering what this line of theirs is doing.
And because Emma was coming, I brought the classic Laphroaig 10.
Oh boy.
And this is the introductory whiskey for Sohan. Tell us about your introduction to this particular whiskey.
You know, I didn't start off liking whiskey or alcohol in general, and I really still don't drink very much, just really when I'm doing this show. But I get to drink really nice whiskeys, and I do love whiskey. You know, I really love it. I really appreciate it deeply. But I didn't used to like alcohol hardly at all, and I think I was probably like, I don't know, maybe like 25 years old when I first had Laphroaig, and I think by that point I'd learned to enjoy beer, and maybe I had enjoyed whiskey in like a Manhattan, but not even really. I didn't like cocktails. I still don't love cocktails. I'm still not a big cocktail drinker. I'll drink a fancy ass cocktail with egg whites in it. You know what I mean? But I remember I went over to my friend Matt's house, and he's not like especially like a whiskey person either, but he just happened to have this bottle of Laphroaig, and he's like, I've got this really fancy scotch, let's drink it. And I was like, okay, I've never had it before. And, up to that point, all my encounters with whiskey had either been like, like Jack Daniels and like Jack and Coke and that kind of thing. And I never really, actually, going way back, the first time I ever got drunk was on Southern Comfort. And so I had a traumatic experience with something whiskey flavored, Southern Discomfort, I call it. And it was terrible. And I've only blacked out a few times in my life, and that was numero uno, and it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. And so I had kind of an aversion to just the idea, like when I drank like a Jack and Coke, I'd be like, it tastes like,
It had that memory tied to it.
And then, Matt served me some Laphroaig, neat, and I drank it, and it burned, and it tasted like fire and smoke and leather and wood, and I remember being like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, everything before then had been trying to be smooth and trying to like hide the burn and like put Coke in it, put vermouth in it, whatever, and try to like cover up that raw, liquor, whiskiness, the oakiness, the smokiness, all those things. And finally I was like, okay, I get this. I can get behind this. Like, I like this experience. Because it wasn't trying to be sweet. It was just being what it was, and I was like, okay, now I get it. And that was
Whether it's tea or beer or wine, there is a progression while you're trying things. Often people start with sweet things and work their way to drier things. They start with less complex things and work their way towards more complex things. Sometimes somebody throws you something that is very complex, and it's like taking a dive off of the high end of the pool, and you end up discovering that you like that thrill and excitement. Emma, for you, what was your first experience with Laphroaig? How did you get to this stage?
Yeah. I have a very similar experience in what it meant to me, in that the first time I ever tried whiskey, I also wasn't a very big fan of any alcoholic beverage I'd tried. I wasn't a big beer fan or wine, and I tried a friend's whiskey and I really liked it, and don't know why, it just spoke to me in a way where I liked the flavors. And then I kind of left it alone for a little bit. I think mostly just because I didn't know what to order and I didn't know how to approach it. So I might order whiskey-based cocktails. And then when I moved to Austin, I was just surrounded by this community of whiskey drinkers, and I started learning so much more. And one of my first memories with this group of people, I was handed a glass of Laphroaig, oh, you need to try this. It was actually Daniel. He handed me a glass of Laphroaig. He's like, you need to try this. And I immediately was in love with this whiskey. And that I was taken back to being a child, gardening with my mom and planting flowers. And it's just like that fresh, slightly damp earth, that smell, that feeling, that just flooded through me, and I have been in love with this whiskey since. And it also just told me this is what whiskey can be. This is so different from any other whiskey I have tried. It was my first experience with a smoky whiskey, and I had no idea the variety that existed in whiskey, and this was that glimpse. And honestly, is probably the reason I'm here where I am now, blending with Balcones. Is just realizing there is so much more to this spirit than I ever thought possible. It's scientific, it's an art, it has so much variety, it builds community, people make memories over it with each other, they celebrate and mourn with it, and just all of those things. I just dove right in because I'm a nerd.
And this is a big part of what I'm trying to do here. Is my first experience with Laphroaig and having a conversation is, Emma, I just graduated whiskey level 1. You love Laphroaig. Of this entire shelf where there's a dozen different expressions of Laphroaig, which one should I try? I was leaning on my Laphroaig whiskey expert. And this is what I'm trying to do here, is bring my friends who have a passion about the things that they're into and sharing it here with Sohan. So this is the Laphroaig 10. This is the one that most people consider the classic, the base, the starter, the easy, accessible, smoky whiskey, smoky scotch. Again, it's a love it or hate it type of expression for a lot of people. But again, in your journey, go back to these things that you may have had a distaste for, in the first place. There may have been an evolution in your palate where when you come back to it, there's something new and different to experience.
I used to hate sherry finished whiskeys, and now I love them.
Yeah.
Taste change and evolve.
For me, it's the way sherry expresses itself. If I get that dark fruit and those plums and figs and raisins, I'm heavily into that.
It's just very comforting, grandpa kind of vibe. This very paternal, gentle. You can feel tradition in it, and you can feel I don't know, it's really hard to describe, but it's got so much personality. I think that's the same. I was the same. It's before, all I'd had was these mass-produced, whiskeys you get at whiskeys at a bar.
Yeah.
And this was wow, someone's here. There's something in here. There's it's more than just a beverage. There's some kind of identity, a personality to this thing.
And I've gotten to the point where it's like, well, set the smoke aside. What else am I getting? Because I know there's smoke there, and I know that there's peat there, and I know that there's iodine there, but that sweetness on that first blush, and then that linger that comes across the palate, and that you know, people make fun of Laphroaig all the time, and they come up with these strange ways of describing it. Tire fire on the beach, you know, and this has that. It's like it's putting you somewhere. It actually picked you up and put you somewhere, or it walked across the room and talked to you. And that's what I like about this whiskey. It's actually speaking to you.
Mm-hmm. It really does. I love that. It's like you can pour a glass of this and be on the other side of a room and you can still smell. It's like, oh, someone poured Laphroaig. I always feel just like slightly bad when I'm visiting my family because I know my sisters are a little not as much of a fan of like some of the stronger whiskey aromas, and they can always smell my glass. I'll like set it on the other side of the table and they're like, oh, you're drinking whiskey. I'm like, yeah sorry.
Mm-hmm. But there's citrus and there's honey and there's all of these delicate things that are in there.
It's very floral to me, and it is. It might sound weird to call Laphroaig delicate, but it is to me.
And the one that you bought is a different expression.
Yeah, so this is Elements. This is a newer line that they're doing, and I honestly, this is my first time trying it as well. So this is actually a borrowed bottle.
Oh, okay.
Someone let me use it. And so I probably should have prepared ahead of time and like figured out all the things, but
No, this is great though. We get to all try it together.
Yes, yeah. And that's part of the experience as well.
so this edition 1.0 explores experimentation with mashing and fermentation styles to reveal an unexpected new dimension to our signature style. 2 types of wort and mashing in old and new style tons. It finely tunes the process to create an on-chill filtered 100% alcohol. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of information.
Yeah. I would love to try these side by side as well. So do y'all mind if I pour this now?
Yeah, that's
Certainly.
great.
Okay.
And so, what's the difference between this one and the other one again?
So this one, the 10-year is their classic core standard. This one, they experimented with the mashing and fermentation of the whiskey. So they changed up that part of their production process.
New and improved.
With different tons.
Yes, so that is a mash tun is like a piece of equipment.
A large
Just a little one.
container.
Yeah.
Not as big as Richard's.
This for the listeners. Oh yeah? Can I put whiskey in this?
Yes.
I actually love that idea.
So a mash tun, seeing as we brought it up, is basically is that where you're doing your fermentation? It's usually a very large container.
The first, it's like where you mash the whiskey. It's super helpful. It's like where you do your cook and your brewing first step of the process.
So it's like a big pot.
Yes, and it functions differently than, so like at Balcones we have our mash tun and then we have our cooker, and the cooker is where we do all of our American style whiskeys like our bourbon, rye, our corn whiskey. It's only single malt that we make in the mash tun because the grain has different needs. So
Interesting.
like you wouldn't leave, like there's this process or like wording called like it's a grain on, and it means when you leave the actual like solids, the grain from the mash and you leave it in the fermentation, and like it gets carried through the entire process with the wash. But with single malt, the husks have a very bitter flavor, and so if you let those go through your fermentation into the stills, you'll be left with this really bitter kind of off flavor profile. And so mash tun is just it has a different really fancy, like really doing great with my words right now.
That's all right. That's all right. This is the best part of this.
It has like a false bottom where the wash is able to go through to fermentation, but all the grain and husks are left
So
behind.
it's straining it in a way.
Yes, straining. Yes.
There you
It's
go.
exactly what we're doing. It's what a teapot does here.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. So a mash tun is like using a teapot and pouring it, and grain on would be like drinking directly out of the gaiwan, where the leaves are still in the liquid.
Yes.
Now at Balcones, I saw a large container that was used for mashing, and it was empty at the time. That entire room smelled like a horse barn.
Get some interesting smells in the distillery.
Yes, yeah, it is fun visiting, and you need to do it in person. Yeah.
Okay, smelling.
So
the
they
tent.
both are a little different side by side.
Oh yeah.
This one is lighter and crisper and greener,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word.
Which
And
one
I
is
get-
that for you?
That's the one.
elements?
Yep, the elements. Yeah.
Yeah, I got more of like a vanilla-y,
Yes.
buttery, buttercream.
The iodine is a little bit more present on the 10, but it's not
Yeah.
overpowering.
I'm getting something very distinctive.
This almost has like a candy.
Like lasagna without tomato sauce. Just the pasta and ricotta cheese.
That's a good
You see
description.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No Parmesan. No tomato.
The smoke is a lot more delicate, but the smoke almost becomes a spice in this one.
There's really something that I'm.
And it
trying to
tamed
put on.
the 10 going back. Wow.
Ooh, it's good. It's really nice.
Yes.
I like it a lot.
I like this
And
one.
it still tastes like Laphroaig, you know what I mean? It's like, it's definitely Laphroaig.
Has their
it's
fingerprint.
And it's not something. It's not like a superficial difference. It's like a really, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, it's Laphroaig all the way through, and it's different all the way through, which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's crispy. It's got this crisp bounciness to it, almost like a green onion on the exhale through the nose, like on that last little bit, almost like a green onion, or even like a green pepper or something like that.
Yeah.
Some kind of like green vegetable.
That's probably where my green came from earlier.
Yeah.
But that's what I like about independent bottlings as well. When you end up getting barrels going to other warehouses and they do releases from the original distillery. This is something that went to Alexander Murray and Co., for example, and they're releasing a Laphroaig release under their banner, or the Scotch Malt Whisky Society has picked a barrel. There are so many flavor variations and differences, and the palates of the people putting these together are going to be different as well. So these releases can be so much fun to explore side by side like this. So thank you, Emma. This is fun.
Yeah,
Thanks
I
for
love
sharing.
this. I'm so glad you brought the 10.
Yeah.
I was hoping, because that's the one I first tried that made me think of gardening, that I fell in love with Laphroaig so much. And so I was really glad that you brought that one. And I do have an independent bottling of Laphroaig, and it is the weirdest Laphroaig I've ever tried. It is straight up asparagus, vegetal. It just takes all of that up a notch, and it's like so bizarre, but I love it so much.
But side by side now, going back to the 10,
Yeah.
the 10 became more delicate.
Yeah, and if you can palate cleanse with the tea in between, it's nice. You get a little like sandwich, tea whiskey sandwich there.
Oh man, this is fun.
It's really good. I thank you for sharing that, because I
Of
also
course.
love Laphroaig, and I'd only ever had the 10. I think
Nice.
I don't have my own whiskey collection. I'm just a mooch. I just drink other people's whiskey.
Well, now that I know you like Laphroaig, I will always bring one. I have some wine finish Laphroaig. That's really good.
Cool. Yeah, that's
I just think it's really cool that you came here with the rest of the people from Balcones, and this was an experience that you had as a retreat.
Yeah.
And I also, for myself, it's like if I'm driving around town and I'm just not right in the head, and I just need a place to come and sit down and relax. This table is fantastic for meeting other people with other conversations, and just get out of your day to day and figure out, okay, what's my next move? I've got to do this and that and the other thing. But to come here and sit down, I came here with Stephanie Houston from Island Getaway Rum, and we sat right here. We had a different tea person that was doing the service, but it was, again, another way of getting out of our everyday today and to sit down and have an experience with other people. There was something that happened on that visit that I'm hoping that Sohan can explain, because there was a story that was described to me. Whenever somebody poured a tea to this one person at the table, they did a double tap at the table basically, it looks like they're saying thank you, but there was a larger story. Do you want to tell that story?
So, yeah, when you come here, or if you're just in a tea drinking environment in general in Chinese, culture, people will do this. They'll tap their fingers when someone serves them tea, and that's a way of saying thank you. And the reason that we do it is because it's a nice way to express your thanks without interrupting the conversation. The story, I'm glad someone told you the story, because it's fun. It's a great way to kind of bring people into the culture and make them feel like, okay, I know the secret handshake now. I'm like, and I feel comfortable here. And the story goes that there was a Chinese emperor who wanted to go and experience life amongst the people as a commoner, and not just as the emperor locked away in the palace, but just go be a normal person for a day. And so he disguised himself as the servant of his bodyguards. A million versions of this story, so if you've heard a different one, it's fine. Don't get mad about it. But version I tell, he's going out to experience the world with his bodyguards. He disguises himself as their servant so that he can be out in the world and not be spotted. And they're going around doing stuff, montage, and then they go to a tea house, and in character as the servant, the emperor pours tea for his bodyguard. And this puts the bodyguard in a difficult position, because at court, if the emperor pours you tea, then you're expected to kowtow, which is when you get down on your hands and knees and you touch your forehead with the ground twice. That's a kowtow, to show that that's how you show your gratitude, because it's such a big honor to be poured tea by the emperor. But obviously the guards couldn't do that in public, because they would give away the emperor's disguise and it would be unsafe. And so to what the guard did, the captain of the guard, when he was served by the emperor, he knew that the emperor would be looking at his cup, because when you're pouring tea for somebody, you have to look at their cup, otherwise you will spill their tea. And so right next to the cup, where only the emperor would see, he emulated the kowtow by tapping his fingers, sometimes his knuckles, like kneeling. But either way, he was tapping, and tapping to symbolize that kowtow. And so the emperor and nobody else in the room, everyone was busy with their own thing, no one would notice it. But it's a very subtle expression of gratitude, and it's just between you and me. It's not performative, it's not extravagant, but it's just there, and it's simple, and we can just keep talking and let that little gesture be that symbol of gratitude. Yeah.
Is that an amazing story?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, and this is part of one of the experiences of coming here, and and having a tea person point at the map where the tea came from, and the conversation with Sohan about specific farmers that he's visiting all over China. And this year he ended up not being able to go because there was some bad news about this location expansion. We've talked about this before, and they've got a new location coming up. Hopefully, when everything is done, I think I love your idea about bringing everybody back and having like a barbecue before this location is wrapped up.
Yeah. Have a big all the whiskey provisioner guests at the same thing. Be really cool. Be a very interesting party.
It would be, yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for bringing all these amazing whiskeys and sharing your knowledge.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I really appreciate the depth of your knowledge in this.
Thank
you've
you.
clearly dedicated yourself, and being someone who's really, really like obsessively into a particular thing. I can tell when someone is really with sincerity and passion and
Fellow
time
nerds.
and work, has dedicated themselves really wholly to a really particular
Thank you.
thing. So it's really great to enjoy and appreciate that.
Thank you.
And you know, like obviously we do these all the time, but I really brought a level of not just technical knowledge and you know enthusiasm, but also doing a really great job of not talking over my head so that I can understand what you're saying.
Thank you. That's good.
So
Thank
we're
you.
we're very happy to have you here. This has
Thanks for
been a
having me.
wonderful experience, and this is what we're doing here at West China Tea with Whiskey Provisioner. We're just talking among our friends and introducing Sohan to interesting things and comparing how that works with tea. So cheers, y'all. Like to see you come over one time or another.
Yeah, please, you're always welcome here, and all the other people about Balcones.
Oh yeah,
Invited.
we'll be
in
back.
fact. Yeah. Awesome.